Getting a little bit sensitive about that. Let's say we've known each other for a few years.
That's right. That's right.
Is that too loud? Am I coming through okay? People who know me know I have a big mouth anyway, so I'm going to be wandering around, Justin. I hope that's okay.
That's fine.
Today, what I want to do is engage you in a discussion about social networks and social media. I don't want to be a talking head. So as we go through, please feel free to ask questions. I know we have some time limitations, but I've also got cards, and I will be glad to try to answer questions later as need be. This is not what I do for a living, but I got into using social media because of what I do for a living. I do executive search work, I do leadership development work, and I also serve as the outsourced recruiting function for firms in certain industries. A little bit about my background. I'm a recovering engineer. That is the truth. I was in manufacturing for 14 years, then I did HR work in the nonprofit and public sector for 6 years, public sector engineering. And then I've been in executive search for 5.5 years in leadership work and formed my own firm a year ago on Monday. I'm sorry, a year ago on Tuesday. So you could say happy birthday because my firm is a year old. And also a little kudo for Justin. It is very difficult being a small business person getting insurance in the open market. It's even worse if you have any kind of an issue like sleep apnea. I have very mild sleep apnea. Nobody wants to talk to you. So Justin was able to help us navigate that. And for a couple of years, we had a policy that had we not had his foresight and his guidance, it would have never worked out. So thank you very much. One question's already come up. Somebody asked me what that little squiggly box thing was on the right-hand side. Anyone here know what that is? What is that?
It's a code that you can scan on your smartphone and go to video.
It's exact, or you can take it wherever you want. It's called a QR code. For those of you who want a business card, my business cards have a QR code on there. So your phone, if you have a smartphone, and some of those phones are smarter than I am, in fact a lot of them are, will actually it can take you to a website, it can take you to a video, it can actually dump your contact information into somebody's phone. Very handy tools. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on a little bit of a journey this morning. So my question to you would be, why are you here? What would you like to know when this was set up by your board? What is it that you would like to learn before you leave this morning? Anyone?
I just feel like I'm kind of in the dark ages when it comes to social media. I've never had to use it when we were, 10 years ago even. And so now it's becoming more and more prominent. I don't feel like I'm using it very effectively. So I'm going to try to learn how to be more effective.
There'll be some very specific first steps that we'll go through this morning. And in fact, Justin is a willing accomplice, helper in this. I'm going to show you profile examples from people sitting in the room. So as I do that, it's not to do anything other than to show you varying examples, especially of LinkedIn profiles. You had your hand up.
The QR code, how you go about getting that set up with your company?
Use a search engine and type in QR code. And that sounds, it's really that simple. And you can set one up. Or the other thing I did was my print company that does my business cards and all my printed materials did it for me for my business cards. But you can set up your own. Very simple to do. They'll give you a JPEG or a GIF or another kind of a document you can use, and you can put it wherever you want. Other questions? Why else are you here? Just so you'll know, I'm older than many of you. I'm in my early 50s. And I kind of refer to myself as a double millennial. And I am probably a college student's worst nightmare. Because when I got on Facebook, one of my sons, I have 2 sons, and you'll learn more about that. One of my sons didn't care, and the other one hated it. Because he had to batten down the hatches on his Facebook page. Other reasons you're here?
Find out how we can stay in touch with our clients and communicate with them on an easy basis.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about using social networks. But the other thing I'm going to teach you is that social networks. Anyone here ever take a physiology class or a biology class? So what does the circulatory system do in your body? It distributes the blood flow, right? A social network is very much like a circulatory system. And the issue is most people get the circulatory system confused with the heart, which is really the pump. And the other thing is bad content is still bad content. So we're going to talk a little bit about basic marketing, then we'll get into social networks. Other reasons. Yes, sir?
What information is appropriate to put out on a LinkedIn from a company's perspective?
Boy, I didn't put that slide in, but when we get toward the end, remind me, because having a social media policy is crucial if you have a company that you're trying to protect. I do a lot of speaking on this topic and a lot of other employee-related issues. I spoke in Nashville last month, and I'll be in Las Vegas in 2 weeks speaking. I hate Las Vegas. As much as I can, I'm going over to Hoover Dam or Grand Canyon. I'll be in Las Vegas only to speak. But most of the people in the conference where I'll be are attorneys talking about liability that comes with social media usage. So it's just like any other tool. Anyone ever used a hammer in an incorrect way? What happens? Oh. Social media is a tool, and there are different types of tools. All networks are not the same. So if you use the right tool in the wrong way, bad things happen. Anything else? Well, let's get started. And feel free to ask questions as we go along. So these are some of the real basic steps of kind of communicating or marketing your business or your practice. We all know what a website is. Everyone knows what a website is? Anyone here ever heard the term Web 1.0 or Web 2.0? Does anyone know what Web 2.0 means versus Web 1.0? Very simple description. When they talk about Web 1.0, it means having a website that is static and you just go to it. Web 2.0 means having ability to communicate using a tool on the web. A social network is a Web 2.0 tool. See, you've learned something already. But you kind of see the whole order of the way things occur. You've got to have a presence and a source of information, then the network will deliver it. So today, we're going to talk predominantly about this and not as much about that. The other thing is, you all market your businesses. Anyone here not market their business? How do you market your business now? All right, Cindy, how do you market your business now?
Well, we don't advertise. We do.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Referrals, word of mouth.
Okay. And referrals are great. Anyone use anything other than what Cindy mentioned? Sponsorships. It's a great way to market your business. Anyone use anything any differently? Anything any different than that? Alliances? Okay. All right. So there are a lot of different ways to market your business. But when you do that, it has to get down to who you are, what you're about. And then we'll talk a little bit about how that ties into networks. Here's my message. I do 3 things. I do executive search, I do leadership development, and I do recruitment process outsourcing. And social media allows me to market it using a blog and social network channels. Now, if we had 2 hours today, I'd show you I'm going to show you some interesting stuff anyway. At least I think it is. And if the geek in me comes out too much, let me know. We'll kind of hammer it back inside. I didn't wear the pocket protector, so it's good. But I did have one at one point in my life. But we're going to talk about how to take that message and then put it in front of people. And on the flip side, we're going to look at LinkedIn predominantly and learn how to use it to find what you're looking for. Sound fair enough? So, I want to show you some statistics about other social networks. We're going to talk about this much about Facebook. How many Facebook users do I have? For those of you who are doing what I would call B2C work, you all know what B2C means, right? It'd be business to consumer. Facebook has some value. Facebook for me, though, is a lot of fun, and there's not a lot of business ability there. So, This shows statistics about people who use Facebook, and it's very interesting. The thing is, and I'll give you a copy of the presentation, Twitter users, which are listed here, are typically better educated and have higher incomes. How many Twitter users do I have in the room? It's about what I expected. If you want to incorporate more than one network, how many of you are LinkedIn users? There are two things I hope that you will agree with when you leave the room this morning. One will be, you need to be on LinkedIn. Need, not want, need. The second will be, if there's another place I'm going to be, it's going to be on Twitter. Another quick question. How many of you have a smartphone? Blackberries are not as smart as they used to be. They're not nearly as smart as some of the other phones that have come out. But this kind of device and mobile technology is going to rule the world. Our country is a late adopter in using this kind of technology. Any of you travel to Europe or Asia or other parts of the world other than this continent? We are behind in this type of technology. One little snippet, if you go to Japan, the typical person in Japan accesses a network more from a device like this than they do from a desktop or a laptop. We're just behind. We used to be on top, but anyway. So, what we're going to talk about are some things when you get into LinkedIn that will make your profile sticky. Do you all recognize where that little cartoon came from? One of my favorites. I love Roadrunner. Roadrunner and Foghorn Leghorn. But in the world of social media and in social networks, you want to find a way to make what you have sticky. So if something is sticky, what do you think of when you think of the word sticky? Matt?
Something people are going to remember.
Sure. Anyone here remember a slogan from some kind of a marketing, something that just really caught their attention?
No sweet shop.
What?
No sweet shop.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where's
Another
the
one?
beef? Where's the beef?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the beef? I mean, that was 25 or 30 years ago, and we still remember where's the beef. And we're still wondering where's the beef. But anyway. A little bit about LinkedIn. It's growing, and it's growing quickly. It is the premier business social network. The statistics I show up there, you could go and find them just like I did. You go down to the bottom of the page, it says about LinkedIn, and that's where it shows that. And they're changing all the time. But I want to build kind of the compelling case about why you need to be there first. Any questions before I go on? Okay. This is the way LinkedIn works. So in LinkedIn, if I send an invitation to Cindy and she accepts, we're a first order connection. And if Cindy sends an invitation to Sheila and Sheila accepts, Sheila and Cindy are first order, and then Sheila and I are second order. Are you with me so far? And then if Sheila sends an invitation to Brian, and Brian accepts, they're first order, Cindy is Brian's second order, Brian's my third order. So you're thinking to yourself, why do I care whether somebody's first, second, or third? Anyone know?
You're reaching people that you wouldn't normally reach.
It has to do with being able to reach people. I'm going to show you how to use the search function on LinkedIn in just a minute. And when you do a search on LinkedIn, you're only going to see information on people who are first, second, or third order connections, or people who are in groups that you belong to. Little side. Who here is on LinkedIn and belongs to any groups? Who here on LinkedIn doesn't belong to any groups? Okay. The postulate, or the additional little axiom to why you want to be on LinkedIn, you want to belong to groups also. Because every time you join a group, every person in that group is just like a first order connection. And the whole point of being on LinkedIn is being able to find or be found. Yes, sir?
What are some biggest mistakes that LinkedIn rookies make?
I'm going to hold that one back. You all have to understand that sometimes I will make a pun when I say something, and I say it all in fun. I huge Southeastern Conference sports fan. So if I make a pun today and I pick at a certain university, it's all in fun. Is that fair? Truce?
Truce.
Okay. There are a lot of things you can do. Misspelled words, lack of information is the biggest bugaboo on LinkedIn. Also, not having a photo. And I'm going to show you 3 different profiles from people within the room, I believe. I know one of them's in the room, and I got his he said it was okay once I told him this morning he was in the presentation. Because I want to show you varying degrees of making your profile more useful. Sound fair? All right, hang with me. So, I have 16,400 first-order connections in LinkedIn. Now remember what I do for a living. My value is who I can reach. I have 4 million second, 16, almost 17 million third, and with my groups that I belong to, I can reach 21 million out of 120 million.
Does that mean you've, again, I'm not a Facebook guy, but you've
LinkedIn.
asked for, I know, but using the whole, I'm going to ask you to be in my group, you've asked 16,000 people to be?
I either was asked and accepted, or asked and they accepted. Now here's the interesting trick. You only have 3,000 invitations. And I still have about 40 invitations left. LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's a good question. Most of you will never realize that because you don't use this the way that I do. This is a big, anyone here, everyone knows what a crowbar is, right? LinkedIn is my crowbar. And sometimes it's my scalpel. Depending. But by having those first order connections and having these group memberships, and my group memberships vary all the time depending upon what kind of work I'm doing. If I'm doing work in healthcare, I join healthcare groups and drop others. If I'm doing work in pure engineering, I move into engineering groups. You can leave and join groups freely. Okay, I know I've got to move on.
Do you have a limit how many groups you can join?
50. 50 is the limit. But if you don't belong to at least 10, you're not getting any benefit at all. That's my opinion.
If you leave a group, is it announced?
No. Nobody will ever know you left. It's like slipping out of one of those big parties. People may have known you were there if you did anything, but if you can slip out. It's no big deal.
So you can belong to 10 groups at one time?
No, you can belong to 50 groups. But my suggestion would be
At one time.
find at least 10 to get started. So that's what my profile looks like. And you'll notice in my description, I talk more about what I do and not where I work. Because you need to think about if you were going to be found on LinkedIn, you need to think about how do you want to be found? What would be keywords that people might use to search you? What would you use, Brian?
Employee benefits.
That's a great segue where we're going. Anyone else have another keyword that they want people to find them for? Consulting?
I'll say it again.
HSAs. I'm a big proponent. I maxed one out for a couple of years. When you have a high deductible plan, you can live off of that. So you're kind of getting the idea. So when you're building your profile, I'm going to show you where you can put those things in. The summary is probably one of the most immediate places. Who here knows what an elevator pitch is? What's an elevator pitch?
It's summarizing what you do and the services you can provide and the time it takes to ride an elevator to the next floor.
In LinkedIn, your summary can resemble your elevator pitch. It is a way to give a synopsis of who you are and what you do. And what I've done is I have put boxes around things that I want to be known for. And you're also going to say, wait a minute, retain executive search, leadership consulting, RPO, retain executive search. There is a reason why you see those things mentioned in my profile more than once. Because it makes me stickier for those keywords. You with me so far? Now don't go in and just put in benefits. People are saying, who is this nutcase? But if you can find constructive ways to incorporate that, it's only going to help you be found.
Now, go back to why did you put, I mean, you're speaking to
Because one, when I do a status update on LinkedIn, other people see it. Two, you can tie your status update to Twitter. Remember, one of the things engineers are very good at is being efficient, and I'm very much about efficiency. Not as efficient as I used to be, but I can still get into that mode. So I'm about getting the biggest bang for the buck. So if I update my status here, it also goes to my Twitter account, or vice versa. And everything I'm showing you this morning is also free. I pay for my LinkedIn usage and I get some other bells and whistles, but I'm only showing you things you can do for free. The only investment is your time. Good. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, but you got, so many Twitter tweets or whatever and all this kind of stuff that you're doing, and so people are following you on that?
People sometimes will see, for example, remember I told you my business was a year old? I sent out a notice about that, and I got 5 or 6 responses. If I'm going to another city in the country, so I may say I'm going to Indianapolis, but well, I don't want to go to Indianapolis. But that's really a great town. People from Indianapolis in my network will respond. Now, if I'm going to Tuscaloosa, nobody wants to see me there. You know,
I have friends there.
and you talk about it publicly? I have a client there. It's a great town, especially when Auburn won there last fall. Anyway, this is an example. John, are you here? Thank you, Drew. And again, he's working on it. So I asked Justin, I said, give me some names of people that are involved, because I think sometimes seeing a name that you don't know means one thing, but if you see somebody you know, then it has a whole different context. So I try to bring context to what I do. Now, John's profile, he has a profile. That's good. But he doesn't have many connections, and he doesn't have much on there. John's profile is not very sticky. Would you agree? But you're going to make it stickier. Okay. So then we have Brent Watkins. Is Brent here? Now, you've got to be the reason why Tim Corbin spoke to this group before, right? See, it is almost impossible to get Tim Corbin to speak to a group now. So I knew you were the connection through Pancoast Benefits. Am I right?
That's true.
Okay.
A little vague.
I can put one and one together. But your profile is better. That University of Mississippi thing, just kidding. But if I want to have a good time, I call Brent. But he has... You're being a really good sport.
Hey, we had headshots just returned last week for review, so.
I got the worst sunburn of my life at the Vandy game. I love that game. Were you there?
Yes.
He always says.
There must have been some kind of virus that day because the Ole Miss fans kept filing out before the end of the game. Anyway, the thing that he could improve, you don't have much about what you're doing at Pancoast Benefits. And I'm going to show another example here in a minute. But you do have a recommendation. I am ambivalent on recommendations. I think that they can be helpful, but I look at who they're coming from because a lot of people trade recommendations all the time. I had a guy from India ask me to recommend him. I said, do I know you? It's not that I don't know people in India, but I didn't know him. So make sure if Justin were to ask me for a recommendation, I would write one because I have worked with him. Okay. Another thing, this is going, go ahead.
You got some ads on the front of your page. Is that some that you chose to put on there? Or
That's all about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is continually finding ways to monetize what they do. And believe me, they're doing it. They take away rights and give them back or sell them back as privileges every day. Yes, sir?
Can you tell how many people have looked at your LinkedIn page?
I can because I pay for that. For free, you cannot. That's a real interesting thing. I sometimes use that to my advantage because if somebody's looked at my page and it's somebody I'd like to talk to, you're nodding your head. Have you done this? I'll turn right around and send them a message just to see how they're doing. And it's like, how did they know I was looking at their page? But anyway, the other thing about LinkedIn, let me go back here. You can see that Brent is a second order connection, so there are some of the people who are connected to both of us. So the other thing it tells me is if I ever want to talk to Brent, I already know some people, and I might go through, I might call one of them, I might email one of them. You don't have to do everything through LinkedIn. Do not feel constrained. But for example, Helen Balfour. Helen's a longtime friend. John Gromos, the voice of Vanderbilt football. I used to work with John. Justin. So there is a lot of really good information on a profile if you know where to look. Here's our third example. And is Richard here? It's too bad because I'd have to give him a big war eagle. My youngest son is a senior at Auburn, so that's one of my biases immediately coming out. But the thing about his profile that is good is he has connections. He has a little bit more information about what he's done at his firms. You always want to list where you've gone to school because that is one more way that people can find you. It's another level of stickiness. I'm a joiner. I mean, we got up this morning to do the pledge, and after we get done with the pledge, I was ready to say, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Because I am in that habit from Rotary. But if you are in organizations, those are other ways. One, there are groups you could join. Two, there are things you can put on your profile that will make you findable. One of my first clients 5 years ago found me because we were both Sigma Chi's. That's the truth. Then he found out I used to work for one of his major competitors. So he knew I would know what he was looking for. But Richard's got a good summary, a little bit more work. He's got a good start. Questions when I showed you kind of the three variations. Some profiles can be too long. My profile is probably too long. Okay. So I talked about, remember, I put the status update here, and here's what it looked like on Twitter. So I could start here, and it would go here, start here, it would go here. Other thing is, that little, somebody asked me what a URL, asked me if something was a URL earlier? You did. A web address is a URL. And a lot of times you'll see in a status update, you can add that to a status update, you can put it in a tweet, and it gives people somewhere else to go if they're interested in the message. Any one of you noticed that I took a picture of the screen this morning before I got started? A lot of times what I will do is I will take a photo and tie a message to it and probably send it out on Twitter, and it will end up right here. So people know that I'm here speaking to you right now. And I included a photo with it.
Is there another way you can make that announcement as if you're on Twitter?
No.
Or LinkedIn?
There are a couple of ways you can do it. You know, for the sake of time, Twitter would be a Twitter application on your phone is the easiest way to do that. But you could take the photo, download it on your computer, and then access it on LinkedIn. But if I could take a picture with my phone and immediately go to a Twitter application and type for about 30 seconds, it's pretty easy. I won't go into this detail, but it kind of shows you that I have a couple of Twitter addresses, and I can tie any one of them to my LinkedIn status update.
What's the purpose of you actually sending out that Twitter message? Is it just to touch people just one more time, just so they see your name?
See my name. Also, it benefits your organization because does your group have a Twitter account?
We do.
Okay. If people were to search for the word underwriters or health, they would find that, and it would give them another idea of some of the work that you're doing. The quality is important. Quantity sometimes helps, especially if you haven't done anything. Yes, sir.
Does that Twitter go out to your entire LinkedIn network, or just the people who are on your Twitter network?
Yes. Since I have the two that tied together, it goes to both.
Do they all get an email?
No, they actually have a status update, either if they go and look at Twitter or if they go and look at LinkedIn. It does not send them an email.
So every time you do that, they're going to get some kind of notification?
If they go and look at their LinkedIn page. Now for me, I have 16,000 first order connections. talk a little bit about using LinkedIn to find things. So I went to LinkedIn and I put in that I wanted to search for health underwriters in Tennessee. That's sound like an interesting search for you? Here's the thing that really caught me off guard. Is Wayne Sakamoto in the room? Wayne lives in Naples, Florida, but from a relevance standpoint, he showed up first on that search. Justin Fortin showed up second. That didn't surprise me. J.R. Gibson out of St. Louis showed up third. And then fourth was Al Hall Sr. Is Al here? Do you all know Al?
No.
So, the word health underwriter in Tennessee, for most of you, if you have a LinkedIn profile, it's not very prevalent. Would you want to be found for that?
You know why those people out of state show up?
Evidently, let me see if I can give you a simple description. I did a simple keyword search, which means it would look anywhere in their profile. I can also do more targeted searches by name, by company, by geography. I'm going to show you geography in a minute. But in using it in the most general sense, those terms evidently must be in their profile multiple times. Sticky.
So he could have grown up in Tennessee, Wayne.
He might have gone to school in Knoxville. If I went to, I know, but no offense. But I thought you would find that interesting because in this, sorry about that. We already talked about you in there. Here's a different search where I search for benefits administrator. Now, how many of you would want to reach out to benefit administrators? Of course you would. They're potential clients, aren't they? So when I did benefit administrator, I did a little bit different search, and you may not be able to see this. But see where, right here it says location. You can type in just about every decent metropolitan area in the country. So I typed in Huntsville, Alabama. Anyone here do work across the border? It's a nice city. A lot of good companies there. Probably a lot of good opportunities, educated, etc., etc. So benefit administrator, Huntsville, Alabama area. I could have done it even more defined and said, show me people in Huntsville within a 25-mile radius. So you can really slice and dice this a lot of ways. Amber Bentley from MagnaCom, somebody from BAE. I can't tell where Aaron is, it doesn't list it. Here's somebody at SS Nesbitt, Bowman Manufacturing. Would that be useful? You can do that. Now for free, you have to type it in every time. If you want to pay a little bit, you can save up to 7 or 10 searches, depending on how much you want to save. I am not here to sell you LinkedIn. I don't work for LinkedIn. I've had many fights with LinkedIn. I've been on top secret probation more than once. Another story for another time.
What are the problems you have
With LinkedIn, I got penalized for networking with people I didn't know on a networking platform. That is, I know, I sent an invitation to somebody that didn't know me. The whole purpose of using LinkedIn is to make connections, not keep people from connecting. So they put me in timeout for a while. A little bit different search, benefit administrator, but I used a postal zip code in a 25-mile radius. So Joy Inman at the Crichton Group. Anyone know Joy? Roger Hatley. Anyone here work with the Hilton downtown? They probably have a big contract nationally, I bet it. Jeffrey Chaffin at Aegis. Anyone here ever call an Aegis? Well, if they're not on your radar screen, they ought to be. And they're not far from where we are. XMI, oh, they'd be a good. Is Tracy a member of your group? Anyway, you can see how to use the search function. Any questions about using search? Yes?
Were you going to go into the hyperlinks about the connections to kind of circle back around to what you said earlier about the?
I don't have to.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I'm at 9:30 now. How much longer do you want me to go?
Right.
Till 10? Oh, then, good.
Dan, is there a limit, the number of searches you can make?
Um,
Non-bank member?
How many hours are there in a day?
Okay.
Or when my wife starts to come in my office and want to know if I'm ever going to come and talk to her again. It's not quite that bad. I'm very fortunate. My wife is a committed college sports fan. Any of you here watch Talkin' Football on CSS? That is her favorite show. I married very well. Oh, not only that, but she is a Kentuckian, so she grew up being a basketball fan. We've just about squeezed all the blue out of her. Okay. Another thing you may want to do on LinkedIn, and this is something that's really growing, is following a firm. So, any of you here ever been to eSpaces before? They're out on West End, just past St. Thomas. I'm on the advisory board. I'm not selling eSpaces, but I'm just going to use this for the purpose of showing you how to follow a firm. So, if you wanted to keep track of what's going on there, and you see that when somebody says they're at a particular firm, it has that little square or that rectangle by it, if you click on that, it's going to take you to a page like this. Now the flip side of this is, every one of your companies can have a page just like this for no cost. Now you can make it, you can accent it and pay a little bit, but you can get a lot of bang on your company page on LinkedIn for just a little investment of time. So, a little description about what eSpaces does, people who work there, and if you click on that, then every time that there's an update coming from eSpaces, it's going to come across your profile. Questions about following a company?
How did you get to their page? I missed it.
I got to it by clicking on this from somebody who worked there, but the other thing you could do is you could go, let's see here, up here in the search box, and you can search for a company name, a keyword, a person's name. In a social network platform, there is no search as good as the LinkedIn search. In Twitter and Facebook, they all pale in comparison. They're not even close. The other thing you can do, this is just a simple search for companies. If you go and click on companies and just put add a company, that's where you can go and put your company information in. It makes you and it makes your company stickier. You put in the company name, email address, and somebody has to be the administrator. It's really simple. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
But then once you get emails from every.
Not emails. The only time you're going to get an email from LinkedIn is if somebody sends you a direct message, which is called an in-mail, and most of you will never get those unless I'm recruiting you, or other recruiters come after you. Or you may get a message that comes as an email if somebody sends you an invitation, but you can even turn that on. So you are not going to get an email every time there's a status update. So you're not going to flood your mailbox. You can let it trickle in, you can let nothing in. You decide.
It seems to me, I mean, that you could get caught up on, I mean, this is a tool, right? I mean,
It is a tool.
That's all it is.
It's exactly right.
And so it seems like you could get caught up in this.
You could.
I mean, and forget what you were really doing in the first place.
And that's a great point. At the end of the day, this is only anyone here ever take chemistry? What's a catalyst? A catalyst is something you can add to a process that will speed it up or make it more productive. LinkedIn is a catalyst. It will not eliminate having coffee with somebody, going to lunch with somebody, but what it could opportunities to do that.
Well, and because I noticed you said it, and you said several times throughout, eventually you will contact that person. Or, so, are you saying that you placed somebody who you never met, never want to meet, and received a fee for it and all that, and just...
The vast majority of people that I place, I never meet face to face. But I do end up doing a Skype interview with them. I don't even have that in today's presentation. Any Skype users in the room? That is a very fast-growing technology. Who has a headache already?
Well, I mean, so have we become impersonal, just...
Some, yes. I'm not going to go there. I wrote a blog post about exactly this topic yesterday.
That's fine. I mean,
3 books you ought to go back and refer to. Future Shock, Megatrends, probably those 2. Because all of this has been predicted. We talked about marketing earlier. A blog can be the heart of your marketing body in the social world. It can tie to Facebook, LinkedIn, a website, and Twitter. So, how many of you have company websites? Of course, you all do. How many of you have a blog incorporated in your company website? How often do you feed your blog?
Not enough.
Bless you. How many of you have ever used a search engine to find something? Google, Bing, whatever. Nobody uses the yellow pages anymore. They're great doorstops. If you want to be found in a search engine, having a blog in a website is the best way to do that. But that's another whole topic for another time. If you ever want to get involved with blogging, simple way to get started, either use Blogger, which is part of the Google family, or use WordPress. WordPress is much better. That's kind of what it looks like. I don't even have time to go through all this. But I'll tell you this, if you do blog ever, and I do, the best way to make your post findable is to have a message that goes from the title to the body to the tags. So for example, if I were to write a blog post about what we're doing this morning, I would have health underwriters in the title, health underwriters in the body of the post. The body means what am I writing about? And then you can actually put a tag on every blog post, and I would be tagging it using the same words. Justin is a great resource for what I'm talking about. He can really help you. Probably more than you wanted me to say, but it's the truth. Other thing is, you don't have to blog every day. Even if you blog once a week, that's okay. Having a Facebook page can be handy, but if I had 100 minutes in a day, I'd spend 90 on LinkedIn, 7 on Twitter, and 3 on Facebook from a business perspective. You can create your own page. I'm not even going to go through that. I've got some really good stuff here at the end I want to go through. Twitter. Most of you don't have a Twitter account. It's very simple. Go to twitter.com. You can sign up. The only thing you have to remember is every Twitter account has to have a unique email address. Who are my Twitter people again? How many of you are using something like TweetDeck or Seesmic or Uber Twitter?
Excuse me.
Okay. If that doesn't mean anything to you, Google it.
If you want to set up a Twitter account, how do you do that?
Go to twitter.com and you're going to see this page. And it's going to be, it's very, very simple. I mean, we could have a much deeper nuts and bolts conversation about implementing this. I don't think there's time to do it today because I have a couple of other little tools I want to show you that I think are very handy.
Dan,
Yes?
how much disruption to the rest of your day is Twitter and the blog, you all gonna do your email boxes and you never, because I get 40 junk things a day from these other places I've joined and networks and.
Not disruption. For me, and again, everything I'm showing you, you're not going to get an email every time somebody don't even know you're there. And you want to find a way to get in front of them. And again, this will not replace other things you're doing. I'm not going to ask the age question, but for people under the age of 35, and some of you are in this room, this is the way that people are going to get their information more and more in the future. It's just a fact. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get a newspaper. How many of you don't take a newspaper anymore at home? It's the biggest disagreement I have with my wife. She has to have that tactile feeling. I'd rather go online and read 5. So, I mean, the way people get information is changing, and the way that people market is changing. This is part of that change. You just happen to be in the transition stage. Very simple search. This is what Twitter would look like if you're going to your Twitter page. And I did a search for employee benefits. Now, this kind of search on Twitter is much more general. Walmart has announced they're cutting employee health benefits. Employee benefits, IRS announces 2012 cost of living adjustments. Employee benefits conference. A Twitter search is not nearly as targeted as a LinkedIn search, but it can be helpful. The other thing is, when I searched for those criteria, other Twitter accounts that are similar, for example, NFIB, you probably all know who NFIB is, or what is EBRI? Employee Benefits something or other.
Research Institute.
Yeah. Employee Benefits, a company, an organization, Employee Benefits Magazine. They all have a Twitter presence, and if you wanted to follow other Twitter accounts that are in that area, you can give me that headache, aren't I can tell it's coming. So, I mean, Twitter is very smart and very intuitive because if it knows you're looking for something, it's going to show you other things that are similar. Yes?
Are you going to go into the retweet of those posts that you find today? Okay. Another discussion.
There are so many things that we could talk about, and I just really had to figure out how can I pare this down, because it is this big, and it's growing and changing every day. Things on LinkedIn are changing every day. Remember the picture I showed you? Yeah, a little bit bigger. We talked about a blog, how a blog can be the heart of your message. When I send a blog post, it goes to my website, it sends a Twitter update, it sends a Facebook update, and it sends a status update to LinkedIn. Remember I told you about that engineering gene? One blog post, 4 or 5 different places. You can do the same thing for free. And if you spend a little bit, you can make it really sweet.
Question I have, with LinkedIn, all the requests you get for friends or business, and I'm not on Facebook, but what I say, it's all personal. And that's what I've always assumed Twitter was more personal, my baby, my body.
Much broader business out there. There is a lot of chaff on Twitter, I would agree.
But so you have the same friend requests like you would on Facebook, and you just ignore them, or then you feel guilty about that.
Twitter's more targeted. And Facebook is just like, it's a mess. It's a fun mess at times. But Twitter can be much more targeted. And Twitter, the fact that Twitter ties in with LinkedIn, I think is a real positive. The other thing is, especially because of this kind of device, the brevity of the message fits in very well with a handheld device. So again, 100 minutes, 90 plus on LinkedIn, minuscule on the others. Yes?
Does LinkedIn have an app that you could put on your smartphone?
Oh yeah, they all do. Justin alluded, we talked about, I mentioned 3 terms, TweetDeck, Seismic, Uber Twitter. There are also applications that you can put on a device like this or a smartphone that will allow you to update the status on any social network. I know, some of you are saying, and why would you want to? And my wife would say the same question.
Mine too.
But I do have people, I'm a huge Vanderbilt baseball fan. That's why I asked about Tim Corbin. And when I go to games, I will occasionally send a photo or tweet the score between innings. And I have people who follow my tweets. And I also follow every other game in the Southeastern Conference using Twitter while I'm sitting in Hawkins Field. I know, I'm over the edge. A couple of really useful tools. I don't know how many of you have a Gmail account, but a reader and Google Alerts are two very handy tools. How many of you have a Google Reader or any kind of a reader account? How many of you use Google Alerts? Let me tell you what an alert is. How would it be that you could have, would you find it useful that somebody might send you an update every time somebody wrote an article about employee benefits? Or what would be another thing where you'd like to get more information without having to look?
Information about current clients, if something's going on at their company.
Sure. Let's just name a company. Bridgestone. What a Google alert will do is it will allow you to use any search criteria you want. And again, this is free. I'm all about free. So instead of putting healthcare administration, I could put Bridgestone, and I could say, show me everything, send a message once a day, or I could have it sent immediately, and I could have it sent to my email address, or I could have it sent to my Google Reader, which is this little thing right here. So I don't have to do anything. All I did was say, whenever it comes, put it there, or send me an email.
Do you have to have a Gmail account for that?
You have to have a Gmail account to do that, which is pretty painless. I think it's a good trade-off. So when this is my home page on every computer I have. I'm not here to sell Google. But I like the reader because I have many alerts set up for companies I follow, industries I follow, and I get rid of some and I add others. And this is all free. You just got to set it up. Just like this. Show you one or two other things. I talked about the reader. How many of you have ever added an RSS feed before? You ever seen this little thing on a page before on the web? What you can do is you can click on that, and Google is not the only one that has a reader. But usually, if you do, you can choose which, Society for Human Resource Management. Do you all know who that group is? Probably the biggest HR group in the world, definitely in the country. I just went to their website, got that off of one of their pages. These are different RSS feeds they have. HR News, Recruiting and Staffing, Compensation and Benefits. Clicked on that, it took me right over here, and it let me choose which one of those readers I wanted to send that information to. And since I have a Gmail account, I use Gmail alerts, I put it in Gmail in a Google Reader. And that's where it would show up. I'm not going to go there. There's just more there. It would give you the headache. Let me stop and just ask, have I prompted any questions? Some of you are saying, do you ever sleep? I do sleep. I sleep very well. And I love fooling with this because the possibilities are almost limitless. And for those of you who think there is no privacy anymore, there's a lot of truth to that because the amount of information that's available, it's there if you just know how to dig for it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't replace you meeting face-to-face with a potential candidate or a client to talk about what you might be able to offer them. All I'm showing you is another way to find information about who might be in play and who might be coming to the market. How many of you know that Rick Scott is moving his healthcare firm to Nashville? When did you read that?
this morning.
Anybody get at me differently than that? so many ways to keep up with what's going on. I had a conversation, any of you do work in Clarksville? City of Clarksville is an interesting place right now. The electric department has had some issues in the last year. Seems like they're having some issues with economic development. And I get the Clarksville newspaper alert every day because since that's a place I do work, I want to keep up with what's going on. You can become inundated with information. So sometimes you have to, there may be things that are relevant today that you don't want to know about tomorrow. But it's all out there. Other questions?
How much time would you recommend someone spend a day, a week?
That's going to vary.
If you have a small business.
In getting started, you may have to invest a little time up front to kind of build the structure, and then the maintenance time will be much less. For what I do, I use LinkedIn probably 2 hours every day. But it's also one of the best prospecting tools I've ever had. Yes?
You recommend where there's, find the boilerplates, company guidelines for LinkedIn?
You need to have a social media policy for your company. You can look that up. Most of the law firms in town will probably have some guidelines they can provide for you. If you want to talk to one of the best subject matter experts, a woman by the name of Molly DiBianca, who works out of Delaware, she lives in Philly. She is, to me, one of the thought leaders about social media in the legal world. She's a good friend. She'll be in Las Vegas when I'm speaking next month. But there are local firms that can handle that. I don't have one in particular I would recommend, but that's a very big issue. Anyone do work in Chattanooga? A year to a year and a half ago, there was a chamber or economic development official who made a comment on his private Facebook page, and he used the term raghead. And he was out of work within 3 to 4 days. You remember that? So, how people use social media, once you put it out there, it's almost impossible to pull back. Other questions? Thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure to be here with you today and see my biases do come out of you.
Would you take the drawing for us, Dan? You do.
Oh, I'll be happy to.
Will the slides be available on the
Yeah,
website?
I sent you the PDF.
Yeah, I'll put it on the website, mthu.org.
All right, this is for the iPad, right, Justin?
It's for the iPad too.